All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Taming the Anxious Mind. My name is Stephanie Sheeman, and I'll be your moderator tonight. So thank you for joining us for the 31st annual Helping Kids Thrive Parenting Conference. With the help of our community partners, Jefferson Center hosts this free event every year to provide you with hands-on practical tools and information to help you raise kids in positive ways. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker tonight, Alistair Hawks. Alistair holds a
Can you help me build this together?
Stephanie, I think you went on mute.
What?
All right, Abby.
Stephanie, I think you're on mute.
I'm busy.
Thank you. I somehow got it there. Okay, so did you hear any of what I said? Should I start again? Okay, sorry about that. I must have clicked the wrong one. So anyway, back to the beginning. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I'm Stephanie Sheeman and I'm your moderator, and thank you for joining us for the 31st annual Helping Kids Thrive Conference. And we're grateful for the help of our community partners. We're able to offer this free conference every year to our community to provide helpful, hands-on practical information to help children of all ages grow in positive ways. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Alistair Hawks. She holds a Master of Arts degree from the Naropa University. She's an LPC, a licensed professional counselor with the state of Colorado, and has an extensive education in mindfulness, subtle energies, and energy medicine academics and consciousness studies. She's a certified clarity breathwork practitioner, as well as an HIKE, a Hike for Evolution, neurofeedback and stress response mastery educator, and a member of the International Breathwork Foundation, and uses her inner compass to guide her working with her students and clients. Today, Alistair will be demonstrating effective coping skills, including mindfulness and relaxation, and how to teach these skills to your child. Before I hand the mic over to Alistair, I have a few housekeeping items that I need to cover real quick. I'd like to start by thanking our sponsors and our partners who helped make this event possible. So thank you to our champion sponsors, First Bank, City of Wheat Ridge, West Terra Credit Union, Westminster Medical Clinic, and DDRC, the Developmental Disabilities Resource Center. Thank you to our friend sponsors, Griner Electric and Tolan Mechanical.
Westminster Medical Clinic.
And thank you to our advocate sponsors, Super Credit Union and the Rotary Club of Golden. And thank you to our partners who helped us with organizing this event, including Jeffco Public Schools, Jefferson County Public Libraries, and the Colorado Educator Association and the Rotary Club of Golden. It's a true community effort pulling this all together, and we appreciate our sponsors and partners' ongoing support to create a world where mental health matters. As a reminder, this presentation, along with the handouts and other pieces, will be available on demand. We'll post these on our Helping Kids Thrive website, and we'll send out those links in the next few days so that you can go straight to the Helping Kids Thrive website for any recordings if you want to view it. We'd love to hear from you during the presentation. So if you have a question for our speaker, please feel free to drop it in the comments. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. If you need interpretation, you'll just click on the globe at the bottom of the screen, and you can select your language there. and you'll be connected with an interpreter. And if you have any technical difficulties, please feel free to just email us at webmaster@jcmh.org, and I'll drop that in the chat as well. And then finally, at the end of the presentation, we will put a link to an evaluation form, and we really appreciate if you could take some time, let us know what you thought of the presentation so that we can use that feedback in future events. So with that, I will turn it over to Alistair. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll share my screen here in just a minute. I want to welcome everybody. Just a reminder, if everybody could stay muted, then we won't have as much interference. Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen right now. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to start the slideshow. Beautiful. Everybody can see that. Let me know if you can't see that. I'll just say that this is maybe the 5th time I've given this presentation, and I always prefer the in-person, but happy that you're all here online. First, just a little plug for Colorado Crisis Services. These are crisis services that are available to all individuals, families. It's a community service. Here's the number right here, 1-844-493-TALK. I encourage anybody who feels strongly that they're either in a crisis situation themselves or they know somebody who's in a crisis situation to give this number a call. They can help you out on the phone, in person. They do mobile care, they do respite care, and it's a good resource to have. We'll just start with a slide on mental illness and the teenage brain. This talk is for all ages of children, maybe not for infants or toddlers, but certainly children ages 3 on up to big children like myself. And what I love about this picture is that it says mental illness on one side and the teenage brain is still under construction on the other side. Mental illness and puberty kind of looks similar. And so what you might be exhibiting or experiencing or observing in your child might just actually be a developmental stage that they are going through. And so as we move through this presentation, I would love to hear about what your children are showing in terms of symptoms or behaviors that make you think that there might be an anxiety issue. So anxiety is what happens when stressors are gone, but worry remains. I noticed when I was getting ready to give this conversation or this talk that my heart is beating.
Sự lo lắng là những điều xảy ra khi mà sự căng thẳng đã biến mất, nhưng sự lo lắng vẫn còn và nó thường vẫn tồn tại.
Mencionarlo. Eso es ansiedad, entonces
Lingers after the stressor has already gone, and so
或者说他心跳很快啦。
sometimes it becomes chronic, especially if you are raised with people who are anxious, kind of in general, and sometimes it's like a free-floating feeling of uneasiness. And so I encourage you all to just kind of check in with your own nervous system about how anxiety shows up for you or how anxiety shows up in the kids that you are raising. Let's all take a few deep breaths together. I really wish I could see your faces and then I could see you breathing with me, but let's just take 5 deep breaths right now. Breathing is one of the best strategies to manage anxiety or to manage nervous system activation. And so let's just start nice, deep diaphragmatic breaths. I'm going to count them. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, So when you are a master of your own nervous system, about 5 deep breaths is what it takes for you to get to a place of baseline emotional regulation. And so I encourage you all periodically to take 5 to 10 deep breaths, especially when you feel nervous, anxious, activated in any way. If everybody could please remute, that'd be great. Thank you. So I'd love to know what you're noticing in your kids or what you're noticing in yourself in regard to anxiety. Before I go into a whole kind of clinical presentation about what anxiety looks like, I'd love to know in the chat box what brought people here. Just quickly tell me a little bit about what you're noticing in your kids. And I can't see oh, here we go, chat. Compulsive behavior. School refusal, hard to settle at night, yes. Shakiness, yes. Frustration, sleep disturbance. Easily embarrassed, yes. Not doing schoolwork. Outbursts. Scratches herself, yes, okay. Nightmares and sleepwalking, isolation, yes. Overthinking, moving slowly. Okay, so what you're noticing is anxiety. It's good that you're here. Let's see if you can't hear me. I don't know who that is. Okay, so anxiety in children. Children with anxiety might seem irritable. They might look frustrated. Starting school, online school, in-person school, COVID, wearing masks, lack of coping strategies, separations from parents or family members younger children can cause all people anxiety, actually. It might look like being scared of the dark or not wanting to sleep alone, being clingy or moody, regressing in behavior, particularly if your kiddo has reached a certain milestone in a developmental stage, something that seemed very solid, and then all of a sudden they start regressing in behavior. Maybe a sibling was born, or maybe a big life change has happened. And so what you're exhibiting in your kids is really symptoms of anxiety. I'm having a hard time switching slides here. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so teens face a variety of stressors also. They're worrying about things like family members' health, their own health, online schools, a lot of the same things, bullying. I'm seeing children who are being bullied in
焦虑的情形，不止影响自己本身，小孩就是跟身边人。
interpersonal relationships. All of these things cause these nervous system upsets in our children. And as you begin to learn to recognize the symptoms of stress and anxiety and teach your kids coping strategies, healthy coping strategies, they will learn how to manage their mood and their behavior. And the earlier, the better. Just another list of stressors. I'm really going to move through this kind of informational phase quickly. We're going to breathe a couple of times because I really want to get to the coping strategies piece. And I'd love to get to a place where we could have a question and answer, because helping you deal with your real life problems, I think, is way more effective than me just telling you what I think you want to know. So things like living in an unsafe home or a neighborhood. I was teaching a 5th grade class over at Rose Stein a couple of years ago, and the 5th graders could not calm down. They could not calm down for any lesson. And so I finally asked them, what's going on at home? And these kids were hearing gunshots in the middle of the night. They were having people break windows in their apartments, and they were feeling unsafe at home, which translated into feeling unsafe at school. Seeing parents struggle is a really important thing to understand when children experience their parents' stress. They might have a residual feeling of anxiety. Puberty, becoming sexually active or feeling pressured to do so might cause anxiety. Changing schools, moving. I have an adult client who came home from school one day, or was picked up from school in 3rd grade, and her parents had moved and she didn't even know what was going on, and she's got these lifelong problems now. So considering what kinds of things our kids are going through are going to help us
Nguyên nhân có thể gây ra căng thẳng, ví dụ như là COVID học và nhìn ra những cái vấn
How it looks. The way that all of you are experiencing your children is pretty much textbook anxiety, irritability, physical complaints, trouble sleeping, sleeping too much, seems lethargic, tired, has no energy, overly worried. All of those are definitely symptoms of anxiety. And I think about anxiety as really it's emotional stress.
Pienso
Right.
en ansiedad como un estrés emocional. Ahí hay fotos de niños con ansiedad.
It may come out as excessive fear.
Puede
inner
parecer como
restlessness,
temor
a
excesivo
wariness, or a hypervigilance.
o
Usually
O
it will be something where
generalmente
there's an absence of a
hay
stressor or an absence of
ausencia
threat, and the kids are
de
still
amenaza,
activated.
pero aún
And
así
when they
están
remain
activados los chicos.
activated even after the symptom or the stressor is gone, that means
Aunque
there's kind of like
el factor de
a
estrés se ha ido, sigue todavía.
built up layers upon layers of stress that they're struggling to manage in any given moment. Trying to change slides here. Okay. So, watching for physical symptoms, stomach aches, cramps, headaches, pain, anything that might be associated with puberty. They might get blotchy in their skin, flushing, sweating, hyperventilating, trembling, a hyper startle reflex. In social settings, they might appear dependent or withdrawn or uneasy. They might appear overly restrained at times when at times they might be really gregarious, and if they are really gregarious, they might present as really restrained or overly emotional if they're not usually so. Preoccupation is also a symptom. So, knowing, of course, that adolescents are going through lots and lots of changes, in addition to becoming more and more self-aware, they're going to possibly be hyper-fixated on how they look or how they feel or whether or not people like them, whether or not they belong in the group that they're a part of. They might start having conflicts with parents around independence. They might protest whenever they can't spend time with their friends or if social media is taken away from them. In an attempt to diminish or deny fears and worries, they might engage in risky or impulsive behaviors. So, when to call a professional? Anytime that your gut tells you that you need professional advice. Overwhelm, talking about self-harm, definitely a time to call a professional. Mentions thoughts of suicide, that's a very, very serious word. I know that when I gave this class in person 2 years ago, there were parents who were talking about teenage daughters or even sons who used this, oh, I'm just going to go kill myself, as kind of a funny thing to say. And what I advise the parents is to let them know that that word suicide is such a serious word that if they are using it, it's really a symptom of we need to go to the hospital. And so when kids are telling you about suicide or thoughts of suicide, it's time to think seriously and react seriously. If you notice that they're feeling depressed or anxious, or they're talking about it, or if they're using drugs and alcohol, really good time to call a professional, at least to have some sort of a consult for yourself or to have them referred to the school counselor. There's also a program called Second Wind Fund that works with the schools to provide services to kids who are experiencing suicidality. Yes, and I see here Rihanna says Jeffco PTA sponsors the QPR suicide prevention training. She highly recommends it. I think it's a great training as well. Let's see. Okay, so the wizard and the lizard brain, this is where we get into the practicalities of anxiety. I'm going to show you my picture here, my kind of very elementary picture of the lizard brain. This is the limbic brain, the reptilian brain. This part of our brain is at the very, very tippy top of our brainstem. When I'm teaching it in kindergarten, if this is the spinal cord up into the brain, at the very tip of the thumb would be the limbic brain, deep, deep, deep inside the center of the brain. The limbic brain takes in sensory information, routes it through fight, flight, or freeze, and then assigns a feeling state to it in the amygdala. This is all reactive and running behind normal conscious awake states of mind. And this part of your brain has been fully formed, online, and functioning since you were in utero. It's been tracking sensory information since the very, very beginning. Once this part of your brain is triggered, it throws a wet blanket on the prefrontal cortex, which is right behind your forehead. Now, what's interesting about the prefrontal cortex, besides that it does all of your planning, logic reasoning, decision making, this part of your brain gets a wet blanket thrown on it once the limbic brain has been activated. This part of your brain does not come online, is not fully formed and functioning until you're about 7. And so if you're dealing with children who are still in preschool or even in kindergarten, maybe even first grade, they don't have a lot of access to their prefrontal cortex. They might sound very logical and rational, but they don't have true access to logic and reason. And so if you're parenting younger children, you really want to help them from the emotional side of things to help them build connections to the prefrontal cortex from the limbic brain so that they have kind of like a super highway of these neural connections so that they really can think through problems when they can begin to recognize that there are certain problems. I'm checking the chat here. Okay, I'll go through those questions. So the wizard and the lizard brain, one of the best ways to build connections between limbic brain and prefrontal cortex is by taking deep breaths. So let's take 5 more deep breaths together. Way down deep in your belly. 1. 2. 3. 4. Last one. 5. So in 5 deep breaths, I can bring my own nervous system back into regulation. Now, this isn't something that you want to try to teach your kids when they're already upset. You really want to teach your kids that very simple strategy of deep breathing when they're not upset, because this is what I hear. Oh, you're so mad right now. Why don't you take some deep breaths? I had a client who was very, very upset. And I said, take deep breaths. And they were like, I am breathing. So it's not very helpful when somebody's already upset to tell them to try to cope with things because they're already upset. They're already at the top of their emotions elevator, and you want to be able to help them come down a little bit before they're going to be receptive to more information. Somebody says here that the lizard wizard brain would be great for kindergarten teachers to have. Yes, we used to teach it at all schools in the social emotional learning program. It's a program called Brainwise. So anybody who is a teacher could look up Brainwise. So we just took our 5 deep breaths. Here's how you can help your kids. Spending time together. Trying to spend alone time with your children each week will help you build these bonds that keep the lines of communication open. When you are involved in your kids' lives, it's really difficult for them to push you out. And so if you've already been involved in their lives, like being involved in their sports team or taking part in school activities or being a helper in the classroom or being part of a carpool, then they're just going to be used to you being around. If you haven't spent tons of time with your kids, then I encourage you to find ways to be more involved. As we spend time with our children, then that helps them regulate based on what they notice that we're doing. Try to be a good listener, listening openly to your children's concerns and feelings and sharing positive thoughts, asking questions, but not trying to jump in and fix things. When I was asking for some advice about how to parent my adolescent, who's 18 now, she just graduated from high school last year, I was told to listen twice or 3 times as often as I talked, which was really kind of a surprise to me, and I had to pay attention greatly to that suggestion, and it really helped her open up more, so because she felt like there was space for her to talk. So being a good listener can be an excellent way that you can help your kids manage anxiety or just nervous system activation, stress of any kind. Be a good role model. Whether or not you know it, your kids are watching what you do. If you are not managing your own stress and you are just falling out, going to sleep, trying to avoid it or isolate yourself from any of the symptoms of stress, that's how your kids are going to learn how to manage stress. And so if you are actively engaged with stress management on a moment-to-moment basis, and that's what it is. Stress management is a moment-to-moment process. And when you're a good stress manager, your children will learn how to be good stress managers. So doing your best to keep your own stress under control and managing it in healthy ways, they're going to learn from you. Getting your children moving important, especially here in the time of COVID when most of our kids were online in school. I read an article recently that said childhood obesity has really grown over the past 18 months to 2 years, and that just means that most of the kids are at home on a screen and not outside playing, which is where they burn a whole bunch of calories. And so getting your kids active, regular exercise. Now, all of us need regular exercise, and so I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to you. There's some suggestions here like yoga, wall climbing, swimming, dancing, hiking, or maybe trying a new activity together, developing a new bond around a new activity. Helping children get enough sleep. When I used to teach Brainwise in the public school system, I asked kids often when we were working on the emotions elevator module, how much sleep are you getting? There were some kids who weren't going to bed until after midnight and they're having to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to school, and they're sitting in class and they're just having a hard time engaging, and they can't focus, they can't concentrate, they can't manage their mood well. And kids need even more than 8 hours of sleep a night. Most adults need 8 hours at a minimum. I know many adults do not get 8 hours of sleep a night. I know some adults get 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night, and they say that's a go for them. Children need 8, 9, 10. Me, myself, if I can sleep all that I want, 9 hours of sleep, I usually can just wake up naturally after 9 hours of sleep. That's really a luxury. But helping your children get good sleep will help them do better in school. It will help them manage their mood better. One of the ways you can do that is by helping them limit screen time. I know we are in the technology age. I actually grew up with a phone on the wall. And so I remember a time when we didn't have computers and we didn't have screens in front of us all of the time, and here I am teaching on a screen. It's really kind of ironic and bizarre, but helping them learn how to limit screen time. I have a 15-year-old client who said that her mother taught her how to just turn off her phone when she's at night before she's going to bed, and so that way they don't get interrupted from sleep in the middle of the night. So helping kids learn how to manage screen time. Teaching work management skills. I was in college before I learned how to manage my own calendar and schedule and syllabi and all of that good stuff. So if you are a good organizer, teach your children how to manage basic tasks. Basic organizational skills such as making lists or breaking larger tasks into smaller ones and doing things one piece at a time can help them manage stress, even the stress of learning how to manage bigger projects. Offering support but not trying to solve the problem, maybe asking questions. You can even do this with younger children, like when they bring a problem to you. What do you think you should do? Asking them, how would you solve this problem? I know that in the classroom, I see teachers do this quite a bit. Like child A and child B, there's a conflict. How do you think it should be worked out? And helping them learn by trying, experientially helping them learn how to solve their own problems. And one of the best, or one of the first parts of learning how to solve problems is learning how to recognize a problem. So maybe you want to have a conversation with your kids about problems, problem sizes. This is also from Brainwise, 3 problem sizes: small, medium, and large. Small problems you can manage all on your own. You don't need help. You don't need to ask for help to solve a small problem. Medium-sized problems usually need a little bit of help to solve. And big problems are often an emergency or require a professional. And so helping your kids identify what problems look like and then who they can ask for help when problems are too big to solve on their own. Eating healthy foods, helping your kids make choices, good choices about eating healthy. I know that I sometimes turn to unhealthy snacks when I'm feeling stressed out. When I was teaching in the public school system, there were always brownies and sweets and donuts in the school, in the snack room, in the teacher's lounge. And when you're under a lot of stress and needing a little bit of fuel, that's often what we would go to. But learning how to fill your fridge with whole foods, with very minimally processed foods, skipping sugary sodas, high calories, sugary snacks can help your kids maintain mood because sugar spikes the nervous system, and then it's usually followed by a period of lethargy. And so you really want to help them learn how to eat foods that treat their bodies well, that help them manage on a long-term basis. One of the teachers, I gave a talk once, and she said that when the donuts come in, they call them do-nots. So I thought that was funny, and that always helps me when I see donuts not. They're called do-nots. Creating family rituals and traditions. Kids rest into routines, and they rest in family traditions. And so if you're not a family head of your family that loves traditions, maybe you would bring some traditions in that your kids might be interested in. Maybe developing some together, developing routines together can help build that bond that opens those lines of communication so that they feel like that they belong in the family, and that the family is also a reflection of who they are. It can be a stress reliever and also gives you time to connect with them. And also just not demanding perfection can help your children. It can help all of us, actually. None of us does things perfectly, and so expecting perfection from children is unrealistic, and it's also very stressful. So having realistic expectations of children and of families and of all different members can really be one of those things that mitigates stress. I'm going to check the chat here while you all take 5 deep breaths. This is something you can help younger kids do when you're putting them to bed at night. Just quieting the body, building those connections between prefrontal cortex and limbic brain. Last one. Okay. I'm going to talk about suicide prevention for a few minutes. It's very, very, see here, someone's kid refuses to do breaths. Yes, many of our kids would refuse to do them. Would love to chat with you a little bit about that at the end. Suicide prevention is so very important. I have an 8-year-old on my caseload that was referred to me through the suicide prevention program, and a lot of these kiddos are having tricky interpersonal interactions at school. Kids who are feeling suicidal have some of the same stressors that we have, but very little internal resource. And so helping somebody identify that they are in emotional pain and what to do about it can be a stress reliever in and of itself. Asking direct questions, are you thinking about killing yourself? Have you thought about that before? Can sometimes be a relief to somebody who's having that struggle. And so being really direct. Keeping them safe. If you have a kiddo or if you know a kiddo who has been expressing thoughts of suicidality, keeping them safe, removing any access to lethal items or pills, even over-the-counter things like Tylenol, or I just know a family who's up on the reservation and one of their children just drank bleach because they're super duper hopeless. And so if you feel unsure about your kid's ability to keep themselves safe, make a plan for it. Remove any of the means, and that can make a huge difference because it's not always in their heads that this could be a possibility. Be there for them. Listen carefully. Learn about what they're thinking and feeling. Acknowledging and talking about it can help reduce the thoughts and feelings that they might be having, when I think sometimes as parents or as professionals, we fear that talking about it might actually make it more
Puede crear
like something that they might do more, but it actually reduces their thoughts.
Yep.
Having a hard time with
Yep.
that. There we go. Okay. Help
就要
them
尽量去开点它，让它不要流。
resources now for suicide
về chương
prevention.
trình ngăn ngừa tự tử quốc gia.
Help them make connections with trusted individuals, help them make connections with mental health professionals, with somebody in their community, encouraging them to talk with friends about it, to talk with people that they love and that they trust, but helping them, kind of opening the door for them to make connections will be a stress reducer. Staying connected with them after they've already disclosed whatever it is that they're thinking or feeling, and providing follow-up. So this is the number of suicide deaths go down when you follow up with somebody who's expressed the risk. Keeping things in instant access, maybe having something posted on your refrigerator, or just making it very easy for your kiddos to get the help that they need. There's lots of resources here. There's a text line for the crisis line. There's stuff on social media, and here's the QPR Institute, which is question, persuade, and refer. And the PTSO was offering these trainings regularly to parents and people in the community. So I encourage you to reach out to your local parent-teacher organization. Breathing, still breathing. Everybody's still breathing. I'm a breath holder. When I get stressed out, I start to constrict my breathing. I start to breathe way shallowly. And so I encourage you to pay attention to what your breathing patterns are, particularly when you're stressed out. I like to share this resource with people because it's an empowerment model, really. The Search Institute did research across the country and cataloged 40 developmental assets. There, I can send these handouts, or I'll just point you to them, the www.searchinstitute.org. You have to sign up, just put in your name and your email address, and you can download these sheets that list all 40 developmental assets. Each sheet, they start from age 3 to 5. There's a 6 to age 9. There's a 10 to 12, and there's a 13 to 18 or something. So it goes through the external assets of support, empowerment, boundaries and expectations, and constructive use of time, and the internal assets of commitment to learning, positive values, social competencies, and positive identity. It lists out the 40 developmental assets in each of those categories and helps you identify where your children might have deficits, where assets are really protective factors. Risk factors mean my kiddo doesn't have any constructive use of time. And so when they have free time, maybe they're going to go do impulsive things. So being able to read those 40 developmental assets will help you recognize where your kids either have protective factors or have risk factors, because they've got gaps in their assets. And some of these are internal, some of them are external assets. And I encourage all of you to take a look at what those are. It's pretty enlightening. So here we are to coping strategies. I really, really wish that we were doing this in person, just because it's fun to see how everybody engages with the coping strategies. So, any questions so far? Okay. So for the kiddos who refuse to do breathing, maybe you teach them how to ground and nourish. And so I'll talk you through these practices, and then if there are any questions, please just put them in the chat and I'll try to address them as they come up. So Axis and Cats is a process of grounding and nourishing. Axis is this line of energy that runs from the top of your head to the tip of your tailbone. And so while you're sitting there, I want you to do your very best to perceive. Maybe you'll imagine this line of energy that runs from the top of your head to the tip of your tailbone. Physically, this is your spinal cord. It carries all of the messages from your brain to your body and from your body to your brain. It goes both ways. It is flexible. It is warm, 98.6 degrees. It is light. It is those electrical impulses that are running from the brain throughout the body and from the body back up to the brain. And so this is the axis. When you think about the axis, you can also let it extend out your tailbone. This is an imaginary or a perceptual activity. It runs all the way through your spinal cord, out your tailbone, and lands on the earth, providing just an extra layer of support. And so imagining this axis, and then while you're imagining or perceiving this axis, imagine a color. Let it be a color. We're starting to open up our sensory information and to provide an opportunity to build new sensory neural pathways, bringing in a color. This is a mindfulness practice. Bringing in an aroma. I have a beautiful rose in my office that somebody brought to me yesterday it was the last one on their bush, and I can still smell it. It's so beautiful. Bring in a taste. Any taste that makes you happy. And a sound. It can be either the sound of my voice or a sound in your environment, a sound outside, or an imagined sound like the beach or the birds or the wind or the leaves. And as we're imagining this axis of energy and color, aroma, taste, and sound, that's what cats symbolizes, then we're providing an opportunity to build a lattice of sensory data inside of our brain that activates front to back, back to front, and side to side. So we actually begin to be whole-brained people versus right or left brain dominant. You really want to be whole brain dominant, and so many of us are born either right or left brain dominant. And so this is a practice that helps us activate our whole brain. Okay. So the Radiant Circuits practice is from Donna Eden. Eden Method Energy Medicine. She is a woman who, when she was 26 years old, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and had a heart attack because all of her organs started to atrophy, and then somehow came upon energy medicine, and now she's a healthy, vibrant, vivacious 80-year-old woman who walks and talks and has children and teaches this stuff all over the planet. So let's do the radiant circuit practice. Radiant circuits are going to help the hormones of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin flow freely. When we are anxious or stressed out, we are producing things like cortisol, which is a stress chemical, and adrenaline, which is a stress chemical, and other stress hormones are racing throughout our bodies. And so this radiant circuits practice is going to help us mitigate the production of cortisol and adrenaline and start to encourage the flow of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, which are the feel-good chemistries. They are, when our brain is producing enough serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, we are happy, joyful, and that is really our natural state. So the first one of these 4 radiant circuits practices is called the triple warmer smoothie. And you just trace your hands, your fingers across your forehead, back behind your ears, down your neck, hands land on your heart. We're going to do this a few times. This is called the triple warmer smoothie. Hands across your forehead, back behind your ears, down your neck, hands land on your heart. Again, we're telling these hormones of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin to flow freely. Anybody who's been upset, I know we've done this before. This is kind of a version of that. And we are tracing the meridian called the triple warmer, which is associated with fight, flight, or freeze. And we're telling it to relax. All right, triple warmer smoothie. Maybe you would teach your young child to do this at night as they're going to bed. You're doing it with them. You're not just showing them what to do. You want to do it with them. Last time, triple warmer smoothie. We're really doing acupressure on our body following a certain meridian pattern. Okay, the next practice in this series is called the belt flow, and you take both hands and you move them around your belly and down one leg. Both hands around the belly and down one leg. You're moving energy through your body, and you're also telling the meridian system to activate and get those hormones of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin to flow freely. And then do the other side. We're just moving energy. We're telling the feel-good chemistries to start flowing. We're telling stress to go away. We're telling fight, flight, or freeze to calm down. Okay, last time. You're just moving it down one leg. Okay. And then this next one is called the Ming Men point. You take your thumbs and you put them on your spine, and you just swoop your energy out to the front. In your spine, just swoop it out. A couple more times. Just trace your hand up the central chain.
como si fuera un zipper. Empieza por
And this basically closes your energy field so that
Và
all
mình sẽ đóng lại những cái
flow stay contained within your own energy field. Okay? And that is from Donna Eden Energy Medicine. So the 5 elements emotional chemistries practice is also from Donna Eden. And it is a series of practices that helps us release certain emotions. And so we're going to start with anger. If If you have a kid that has a tendency towards anger, maybe would be a good one for them. And so the way we start is we rub our hands together just to generate a little bit of energy. Shake it off. And you want to ground on your thighs, taking a deep breath. For anger, hands go out in front like a fist, and we're just going to bring them up behind. We're gathering up all of our anger, and we're just tossing it in front of us. Last time, really slow and methodical. Okay, that's for anger. Okay. This one is for worry, taking the right hand and putting it on the ribs under the left arm. Left hand goes on the right elbow. And we're just going to take a few deep breaths, just soothing the self from worry and concern. Right hand is on the spleen, which is associated with calm. And the left hand closes the circuit. You can see when people are worried, they often cross their arms over their chest. And this is just going to help close that meridian. Last deep breath. Okay. This next one is for grief. Anybody who's having some grief issues, rubbing hands together just to generate a little bit of energy, shake them off. And we're going to start here in just kind of palms together posture. And with each breath, we're going to split our arms apart and we're going to look up and pause for a minute. And then do the opposite side. Just stretching out the energy. A couple more times. Okay, that practice is called Earth and Sky. And then the last one in this series is for fear. And so on the floor, or on your chair, if you just tuck up into like a fetal position and really hug your legs, you're putting pressure on the solar plexus part of your body right here, where a lot of emotion is held. And you're just hugging. Your chin is towards your chest. And you're just going to take a few deep breaths here. This one's for fear. Two more deep breaths. Okay, so those are some practices that you can teach your kids about how to deal with emotions when they're really strong. Okay, any questions about that? Nothing in the chat. Okay, great. So Brain Gym is something that was developed many years ago for kids in school. And there are a ton of experiential exercises that you can do to help your kids build neural pathways across both sides of the brain, to help them get their energy going in good ways so that they are engaged and focused. There is not a book for the radiant circuits, but let's see, it's from the Eden method. Okay. That's where you'll find radiant circuits and the 5 elements emotional chemistries practices. Yeah, okay. And I'll help you find some videos for those. Okay, so brain gym are experiential exercises that help kids develop focus and build those neural pathways. The cross crawl is just one elbow to the opposite knee. And so when you're crossing across the midline of the body, you are helping both sides of the brain activate. So this is a great thing for kids to do like at the beginning of a class or anytime they're doing homework. It kind of gets their energy moving and helps them be focused. And then brain button breaths, put a finger in the belly button and a finger on the third eye and press in and lift up. Take 3 deep breaths. I hope everybody else is starting to feel as focused as I am. Okay, so that stuff is from Brain Gym. You can get teacher and parent booklets on Brain Gym even at your local library, maybe in your school library. Maybe your school counselor has some. Okay, breathing. We already talked about diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing is when you're breathing down here low in your belly. When we breathe up here in our chest, it activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is associated with fight, flight, or freeze. So when we're able to breathe low into our belly, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is all about relaxation. And so let's all take 5 more diaphragmatic breaths. Last one. So when Stephanie was introducing me, she said, I'm a Clarity Breathwork practitioner, and that is true. I took 400 hours of Clarity Breathwork training last year, and my sister said, oh, are you learning how to breathe? And then laughed, and I thought, yeah, actually I am learning how to breathe. So many of us don't breathe in healthy ways. We have either constricted breathing or we have rapid breathing, and there are a lot of health problems associated with incorrect breathing. And so learning or retraining yourself how to breathe well is actually one of the best things you can do for stress management. You can count your breaths. When I was teaching Brainwise in schools, we would do 5-finger breathing, or just counting the breaths like I've been doing throughout this presentation, or being mindful of your breath. That is the Clarity Breathwork style. Just conscious on the inhale, conscious on the exhale. Nice full breaths all the way to the top of your chest, letting yourself take in as much of that healthy oxygen as possible. The more oxygen you have, the more brain food you have, the more all of your organs have to do what they need to do. Oxygen is one of the ways that we are nourished. And one of the breathing teachers has said that 70% of the toxins in our body are released through exhalation. And so breathing is actually one of the ways that we cleanse our bodies. So being very mindful about your breath is super important. We come in to the world with a breath and we go out of the world with our last breath. And so it is really the beginning, the middle, and the end of stress management. So be a good breather. Anytime that you are doing movement, you are providing an opportunity for stress release. So athletics, yoga, tai chi, any kind of exercise, let it be conscious. Don't have it just be, well, I'm just doing this because I think my body needs it. Be engaged, body, mind, emotions when you're moving your body, because you will be more present, you'll get more out of it, and it'll actually be more stress reducing. Anytime you're doing art, is a good time for stress management, or art itself is good for stress management. I particularly liked to teach origami for stress management. Even though it can be a little stressful to learn origami, it activates both sides of your brain because you're thinking while you're being creative. And so I loved origami for stress management. Positive self-talk is super important for stress management. If you ask your kids who are struggling with anxiety or depression or suicidality what their self-talk sounds like, most times it's not very good. And we learn how to talk to ourselves based on some of the feedback we get early on. And so it's messages like, oh, you big dummy, you could have done that better, or why do you have to keep doing that? And we really want to edit those thoughts, because anytime we're thinking negatively about ourselves, we're perpetuating and we're conditioning ourselves to produce more stress chemistries. But when we're saying positive things to ourselves, when we're talking to ourselves like we are our best friend, then we're producing more of those positive chemistries that we really need to feel healthy and happy. So checking in with your kids about what's going on with their self-talk and helping them learn to edit it can be a great stress reducer. All kinds of mindfulness, meditation, tight and soft is a practice that I loved to teach in elementary school. It goes like this. So start with your toes, squeeze your toes, tighten them, tight, 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 and let them go. Let them be soft. And tighten up the lower part of your leg. Tighten it up, tight, 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 and let it be soft. Now tighten up your whole leg, all of it, top and bottom, tight, 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 and let it be soft. Squeeze your booty, squeeze it, squeeze, 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 tight, 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 and let it be soft. Squeeze your belly, squeeze it, squeeze, 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 and release, let it be soft. And bring your shoulders up to your ears, shoulders up, 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 tight, 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 and let them be soft. Arms really tight. Tight arms, tight fists, tight, 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 and soft, and tighten your face. Tight, 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 and soft, and eyebrows up, eyebrows up, eyebrows up, and let them be soft, and squeeze your eyes. Squeeze, 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 and release, and then tighten your whole body. Tight, 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 and soft. And so when we do the tight and the soft, any residual tension that we've had in our muscles starts to release. We're providing an opportunity to really extend that squeeze, but then also to let it go. I don't know about the rest of you, but by the end of the day, a really stressful day, my shoulders like to ride up about here. And so I really have to practice bringing them back down away from my ears. And so that happens throughout our body. Sometimes we squeeze our chest, sometimes we're squeezing our arms, sometimes we grit our teeth. And so really just developing and making that a bigger squeeze and then letting it go can help you relieve some of that tension. We just did the 5-finger breath. That's mostly for younger kids. Warming hands. This is a practice that little kids really can do because they don't think about it too much, but adults kind of struggle with. This is from biofeedback. And when we can affect and change the temperature in our extremities, then we become more masterful at managing our autonomic nervous system. So I want you to just imagine, perceive. If you need to close your eyes to do that, go ahead. Imagine that there's this warm golden light flowing from your shoulder, through your elbow, into the palms of your hands. And it's just pooling there in the palms of your hands, getting them warmer and warmer. This warm golden light is flowing from your shoulders, through your elbows, and it's pooling in the palms of your hands. And just notice if you can perceive even the slightest increase in temperature, I would love to know if people can notice the temperature of their hands. I noticed it the first time because I've done this probably 1,000 times. The first time I said it was pooling in my hands. And so if anybody else noticed, let me know. Yes, awesome. Okay, definitely, great. You guys are good at this. Okay, last one I'm going to talk about, and then I'd love to open it for Q&A, is visualization. Our body doesn't know when, or our brain doesn't know that it's not really happening when we're imagining something. And so when you're able to perceive, to imagine that you are in a peaceful place, your body is peaceful, your mind is peaceful, you start to get those chemistries of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin flowing freely because your body doesn't know that it's not actually happening. The power of your brain is such that your body will respond as you practice visualizing. And so I encourage you all to imagine the safe, warm, peaceful place where all of your needs are met. There's no stress here. Feels really, really good. And practice going there in your mind. It's like a little mini vacation. And so those are the strategies that I have for you today. Let's see what else we have here on our slide. Oh, I love sharing this distress tolerance slide. Improve the moment. This is really from DBT. So improving the moment with imagery. Imagine something relaxing or soothing. Giving it meaning, so thinking of the important things in your life while you're imagining that thing. Maybe giving it a little prayer if that word works for you, meditating, pondering, or just intending, holding a thought. Relaxation, practice calming routines. When you do it over and over, it makes the skills readily available to you. You become embodied when you practice them over and over. And the more embodied you are, the more inner resource you have for stress management. Doing one thing at a time and really being aware that you're doing one thing at a time. Taking a brief vacation, even if it's just 5 or 10 deep breaths. And having encouragement, making encouraging statements to yourself, making helpful statements about others. All of those can be stress reducing, especially in this time where there's so much judgment going on. It's very, very obvious people are either upset with somebody else, and it's really hard to mitigate that. So have encouragement for yourself and each other. And then here's some resources for you. Take a picture of that if you like, and I would love to field any questions, any comments that you have. My website is right here if you want to check out my website. Some of the things that we've talked about are there, and the Hike for Evolution is for adults interested in self-mastery, lots of mental health resources here. Thank you for coming. It's been great. What else can I provide for you?
Thank you, Allie. How do you feel about sensory tools?
So welcome.
Fidget spinners and things like that. Do you feel like they're
Please remember to fill out
good
your
resource?
evaluation. Would love to hear your feedback. Anybody have any case studies, individual therapy for teen or family? Individual therapy for teens, if they have buy-in, yes. Some teenagers come to me on their own free will. Some of them come because, because their parents want them to come. They don't do as well. Sometimes family therapy can help. It's really, case by case. How do you suggest handling a kid who doesn't talk about feelings to handle anxiety? Maybe they don't know about feelings. I mean, the language of feelings is not well known. I encourage you to print off what is called a feelings wheel. You can just pull it up on Google, Google feelings wheel. And there are often just these very colorful wheels that have anger and all of the different nuances of anger and joy and all of the different nuances of joy. And print it out and stick it on your refrigerator and start using the words that feelings describe, or that these, and talk about the feelings that these words describe. That can help kids learn the language of feelings so that they can start recognizing when they're feeling a certain kind of way. Kiddos who don't talk about feelings might not quite know how to express their feelings. Feelings are very nebulous, and people get flooded very easily when they try to talk about feelings. And so really learning how to recognize, like, what's happening in my body. Oh, this is nervousness. Helping them make those connections. Hyperactive, and let's see, therefore have a difficult time with focus and completing assignments. Yeah, I mean, helping hyperactive children learn how to slow down, like when they're feeling calm, help them take deep breaths, help them learn what their bodies, how their bodies tell them when they're calm, or how their bodies tell them when they're really activated, really helping them learn to discern between calm feelings and excited or hyperactive feelings can help them. Learning discernment about that. And ideas to help a teenager who's shut down. Oh my goodness, yes. Isolated from friends, stalled out at school. Yeah, what's happening is I'm wondering if, yeah, that sounds super concerning. Are they allowed to isolate a lot? The kiddo, the shutdown kiddo. I mean, if they're stuck and they're refusing help, it's really hard to make them. How old is the isolated kiddo? DW. Everybody, thank you so much. Okay, 18 years old. Oh, yeah. So by the time they're 18, they're kind of on a trajectory, and really providing self-help resources, continuing to put resources in front of your 18-year-old child is a great idea. Helping connect, maybe trying to connect with the things that they love to do can be super helpful. Asking them how you can be helpful. It sounds like there's a lot of, like, people are trying to help, but maybe asking them what they need. Is there something we can do for you? I would love to have a conversation with you more about that, DW. Please feel free to call me about that. My son can have both hyper or hypoarousal depending on the situation. Attention goes. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're giving him a lot of attention when he's screaming or crying, but not giving him any attention when he's quiet, then it's almost like he needs to be screaming or crying to get your attention. And so trying to just even come to a more neutral place on both of it, like, can we get you calmed down and then we can have a chat about it, or can we get you a little bit more active and then we can have a chat about it? I'd really be happy to have a chat with you also. Happy to help any of you. Please feel free to call me. Okay, how should I handle a teen boy who's not seeing the benefits of coping strategies? Ooh, how old is that? How old is that boy? 16. Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts about all of that, really. And if you want to call me, I'm happy. Here, I'm going to put my number here. If I get a million phone calls, or if I get 56 phone calls, I think that's who's here, 44 people. If 44 people call me, it'll be a very busy day. But if a few of you call me, it won't be so busy. There you go. Feel free to call me about that. And my website number is on my picture right here. And look on my website. You can see I'm taking insurance through the end of the year. Would be happy to field any conversations about that. How do I get a teen with automatic negative thoughts towards situations? Automatic negative thoughts, that's a self-talk thing. And yeah, I mean, strategies for that are learning to notice that you're having automatic negative thoughts. Self-awareness is one of the biggest tools any of us has, and using breath to start to develop awareness of, oh wait, why do I always go to negative thoughts? It's really kind of a process of unpacking all of that while slowing down the nervous system activation through breathing or through any of the other things that seem to help. Yeah. For brain breaks. Oh gosh, do anything, any of the brain gym would be helpful for your kiddo with ADHD. And you can get a whole list of those online, brain gym. They're so easy to learn. Yeah, but getting the prefrontal cortex hooked in is going to be one of your best resources for your kiddo with ADHD. How to tame your own anxiety. Deep breaths. Yeah. Managing your own nervous system response, learning how to be an expert breather is going to help you with your 7-year-old who's on the spectrum. Anytime I imagine your own anxiety kind of might spike their anxiety as well. And so being an expert stress manager is going to help your kiddo be a better stress manager. Okay, can you recommend any breathwork training or classes for adults? Yes, actually, I am doing look on my website for breathwork, and I'm also giving a class at Full Moon Books this Friday 5 to 6 and Saturday 11 to 1. How can I help my son being very worried, hyper anxious? Oh, goodness. Self-awareness and helping your kiddo. Yeah, the hyper focus on what others are thinking about them, that's self-consciousness. He's self-conscious. And so helping him unpack this tendency towards self-consciousness. A lot of that can be alleviated through self-esteem work, through learning new skills, becoming expert at something, and so helping them develop hobbies or interests can be helpful for that self-consciousness thing. Let's see, Stasis Life. Great, I'm going to check that out. Is also great with breathwork programs that are free. Wonderful, beautiful. Okay. Millie, if you email me, I can send you the link. Or text me at that number. Okay, anything else? Really appreciate everybody's questions and participation, and the online format is a little tricky, but it's been great to be here with you all. May you all be healthy and happy, and may your kids be healthy and happy too.
Thank you, Alistair. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight, carving some time out on your busy
I
schedule.
can't hear you, Stephanie. Should I unshare? Here. Stop sharing.
Yeah.
Going back to you. Okay.
Yeah. So again, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. And let me give you the link.
I still can't hear you, Stephanie. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Oh. Okay, now. Try now.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And just no matter what you're going through, it's important to have the tools to help you. And we really appreciate Alistair taking some time to help us fill our toolbox. And you know, if you need help, Alistair has certainly left her number in the chat, and you're always welcome to reach out to Jefferson Center. You can visit our website at jcmh.org, or you can call us at 303-425-0300, and we're happy to help answer questions. And you can always visit our website. We've got a really great blog. I know that